Well, hello everyone. Thanks for joining us for another edition of Kernels. As you can probably see on the screen, I am joined by not one, but three in practice librarians for this very special edition of Kernels today. Before I introduce them and our topic, let me remind you what Kernels is. So this series is just a quick pop of professional development that we really just want to showcase something cool going on in a library. And so today, sometimes in my travels, I hear about something and I think that is cool and a little bit unusual. And so I've sort of consolidated a few of those unusual services today, and we're going to hear from three librarians that are all doing sort of off the beaten track services for their town through their libraries. So we're going to start with Jane at the Jefferson Public Library, who manages a Kodak photo printing kiosk. Then we'll hear from Jamie in Polk City about how Polk City serves as a passport agency. And then lastly, Dawn Miller at the Lakin Library and Envisioning Center from Tabor, Iowa, will share about how their library is a UPS drop-off site. So all things that I thought, I don't hear about too many libraries doing that. I really hope that this kernel sparks an unusual services part 2. So if you watch this and you think, oh, my library does an unusual thing, let me know about it because we'll want to feature that as well in maybe an upcoming kernel. So Jane, let me turn it over to you. Tell us a little bit about the Kodak photo printing. Why did you decide to pick that up?
So I was downtown one day and noticed that a business was closing, and they had one of only two photo kiosks that we had in our community. And I said, "What are you going to do with that?" And they said, "Would you like to have it? Because we're not going to have it in our store anymore." And the store next door that had also had one had also closed. And so I realized that if we didn't take it to the library, we would no longer have that service in our community. And I'd always thought it would be kind of unique and fun to have a photo kiosk at the library, a service that we could provide. But as long as it was somewhere else in our community, it wasn't a need. But when this need presented itself, I said, yes, let me ask my friends of the library group if they'd be interested in purchasing that and locating it at the library. So my friends of the library got on board right away with that. And so now it is the only photo kiosk in our town. It would be 25 miles to drive to the nearest Walmart or Walgreens. Some people are fine with doing it online, but other people just want to do it themselves. So our main benefits of having it are continued local access to this service. And it also serves as a fundraiser for our friends of the library. And Sam, if you want to show the photo of it, we learned in the process of adding this to our library that we are one of 7 libraries in the United States that have a Kodak photo kiosk. There are kiosks in libraries in Wisconsin, Colorado, Illinois, Nebraska, and ours here in Iowa. And it is a full-scale Kodak kiosk with 2 printers and a monitor and a hard drive and a scanner. So how we implemented getting that into our library, as I mentioned, our friends of the library was very supportive, and they provided the funding to purchase it from the local business. And the machine was 3 years old at the time, so they gave us a good price. And that was 2018 when we brought it to the library. And so it brings in $3,000 to $4,000 a year, and the Friends of the Library pay for the supplies, which are fairly expensive. So their profit is about $1,000 to $2,000 a year, but they strongly feel that they want to keep this service in the community regardless of how much revenue it brings in, because it is the only one in our county and people are using it a lot. So it helps us provide a needed service in our community. And how we market that we have it in the library is our library Facebook. Every once in a while we'll put it out there just to remind people that we have it at the library for them to use. It's on our library website. Sometimes we add it into our monthly newsletter as a reminder. The city puts it on their Facebook, and there's a sign hanging up at City Hall. And we also have some digital bulletin boards in the library that advertise it for us. A lot of people come in and use it for projects for the county fair. We see a lot of kids coming in to develop their photos for their displays of 4-H and otherwise for the fair. And then another time that it's well used is when there's a funeral and someone needs to print off some photos for a photo memorial at the funeral or the visitation. And of course, helping those folks is important to us, and it's kind of a sad occasion, but they're kind of in a hurry to get those printed off. So it's nice they don't have to drive out of town. With the scanner, we can help them preserve their old photos. So sometimes we have some family history researchers who want to make extra copies of great-grandparents' photos and share them and make it so that they don't have to worry so much about losing the original. Photo gifts, a lot of things at Christmas time, holidays, when people are making gifts. Also, graduation is another big time. And all of you have probably used a photo kiosk at some point, so you know you can make invitations, greeting cards, photo collages, party invitations, and a fun thing that you can do is make bookmarks. So sometimes we will make bookmarks as a special prize for something that we're doing in the library, and we can personalize them, so that's fun. You can print from your phone, a camera card, a USB. Most people forget their power cords, so we got a device that we just keep handy in the library. It has cords on it. I don't know if you can see it, but it's got 3 different ends to it. And so that'll fit most devices. So we keep that here. One of them walked off one time, but so we've had to replace that once, but that's not too expensive. And it has plugins that fit Android and Apple, and it has a long cord on it. So everybody just uses that. And it makes 3 sizes of prints and, like I said, collages and some other things that you can create. As far as advice to another library that might be thinking about adding a Kodak kiosk, there's a lot of advantages. It's a great public service. Like I mentioned, it's the only one in our county, but it brings in a lot of people to the library. So we get a lot of foot traffic that they're not necessarily there to check out a book or use a computer or the wireless or whatever. But think of all those people we would like to have coming into our libraries. And so this is, when they're in the library, they see other things happening there. They see people that maybe they only see at the grocery store. So it's another place for people to meet around the Kodak. It's really easy to use. It seems like people either really know what they're doing and they don't need any assistance from us, or they really need us standing there right beside them and helping them go through the screens to get their prints. So, you know, you get a Kodak kiosk in the community, but you also get a librarian to assist when needed. It's a great fundraising tool for our friends of the library, and that money does come back to the library. So it's just a win-win all the way around that way. Also, you're helping people preserve memories, make gifts, and we mentioned genealogy researchers before. Some things to consider: there is a cost and staff time to assist the patrons to maintain the equipment. So we do, you know, it's noticeable after we added it that this was also going to take some staff time to change the paper, to change the ribbon, to call tech support, which has always been a good experience for us. The cost of supplies each time I order is about $800. But then there again, we have a nice arrangement with the friends that they pay for that. And also just space, because if you're a library like mine, that's a little space challenged. You need to find room for it. It's not a tabletop model. when our unit, after we had it about 5 years, it was time to replace all the insides, the printers, the monitor, and so on, not the case on the outside. And that was pretty expensive. So I went to the Friends of the Library again and asked if they would be willing to do that, and they did. So that was about $6,000, and at that point, the machine was 8 years old. So you do have to be aware that it's like a computer, it's going to need to be updated. And so that was in 2023 that we got a refurbished 2 printers and a monitor and a new computer. So I think that's all that I had to share, but it has been a good experience having it in our library.
Cool. Well, thank you. I just think, yeah, to have to drive 30 minutes, 25 miles to print a picture, especially if there's a time crunch, party, a funeral, a graduation, whatever, it's like, oh, I can do that in town. What a lifesaver. So very cool. Thank you for sharing that. Jamie, let's go to Polk City and hear a little bit about the, from what I understand, very popular passport service that you guys offer.
So yes, in fact, we have one appointment going on out there right now, it sounds like. So, yeah, we became a passport acceptance facility in January of 21. That's when we started accepting applications. We actually applied in February of 2020. So it took us about a year to get going. I doubt that it would take that long if you were interested in signing up now. And you know, it kind of came to me after, so when my girls graduated from high school, we would take them to get their passport before they went to college. And both times we drove to a neighboring community. It was about 15 miles away, but they were about the same size as Polk City. And their city hall offered passport services. Um, and so I was like, well, I wonder why Polk City doesn't offer them. And I looked into it. I mean, I just kind of Googled how to become a passport acceptance facility. It really wasn't that terrible. So we talked about it with our library board and with city council and decided that was a service we would offer here. So the U.S. Department of State does vet the employees that are going to be passport acceptance agents. And then there's a pretty extensive training that is involved. It is offered online just this last year now. They did bring it back to an in-person option as well. I know they had asked us to host it, and we did not have the space to host it, but they did that this fall. So the Department of State really likes library facilities because of their hours, which is why we are so popular, because the public likes our hours as well. Our primary responsibility is to just verify that the person who's applying for the passport is who they say they are. One of the things that the Department of State will tell you is that a U.S. passport is the most sought after black market document in the world. So you want to make sure that they are who they say they are. We don't really have an issue here. And then also that their paperwork is completed accurately so that it avoids delays. The Department of State provides all of the materials, the forms. Sam, if you want to kind of show some of my pictures here, I'll just kind of point out a few things. So that's our photo printer. You are not required to offer photo services, but we do. We charge an extra $15, which if you drove the 10 to 12 miles over to Ankeny to go to Walgreens or CVS, they're charging about 17, 18, 20 for those. So 15. We chose 15 because the Department of State requires that we charge $35 for every application that we process. And so 15 added to that just made it a nice even 50 for math purposes. So although they provide all of the forms, we provided a camera, a photo printer. We did do a screen. We upgraded to that after maybe a year. At first, we just had a piece of white poster board on that door, and it worked out just fine. You can see we put a measuring tape up there next to it because when they're filling out their paperwork, they never know how tall their kids are. So we just let them go over and measure. And then that table that Sam had shown, that's kind of where we process them. So we've got the fees posted there on what was the COVID plexiglass. And then we just have the forms underneath. A lot of people come in with them already filled out. We have them available on our website. But we also have them here so that they can fill them out while they're here. So like I said, go ahead.
No, does it bring in revenue for the library then? So you mentioned the
No.
$15 fee plus the 35, but I imagine most of that 35 goes to the feds.
Nope, that 35 is ours.
Oh,
So
okay.
when they come in, they make two payments. They make one payment to the U.S. Department of State for the cost of their passport, and then they
Okay.
make a payment to the library for the execution fee, it's called, which is $35, and that is set by the Department of State. And then, like I said, 15 for a photo. And then that $35, basically there's a lot of revenue in that. I mean, we out of that, we make photocopies of their documents that we have to do. And then it costs just over $10 right now, I think, to priority mail it, which we're required to send it priority. So, we're pretty much making $25 for every application that we process. The one thing too is I said it, and I say that lightly because you can put 7 applications in one envelope. So, and it'll still cost $10 to send it. So we're making more than that, $35. But yeah, lessons that we learned is when we were having the conversations as we were starting, and they were like, well, how many do you think you'll do? We said, well, Polk City's got like 5,000 people, and so maybe we'll do 50 a year. And that realistically has turned into, we have closer to 50 appointments a month. We have scaled that back a little bit, but it is because we offer evening and weekend appointments. And if you're going to a post office or a courthouse, it has to be Monday through Friday, basically business hours. We are also very kid friendly. So, while we're getting that paperwork, there's lots of things for the kids to do, unlike a post office. I think
It's funny for a kid to do in a post office. The postman just might not want them doing it.
exactly. Yes. So I think the biggest lesson that we learned though was that basically I said, you have to control your passport schedule or it's going to control you. You have to remember that you're the library first. So we have changed, over the years. So we now only do passports on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then we alternate Fridays and Saturdays. So if we take them on a Friday, we are not taking them that Saturday, and then the next week we'll take them on Saturday, but not Friday. Just to kind of break it up. And we don't do any more than 5 to 7 appointments per day. Once those have filled in, then we shut it down because we could do them all day, every day.
Wow.
We use pick time for scheduling, which was a kernel several years ago that I saw. And at that time, there was a free version. We do pay for the $20 a month version of it, but it allows them to make their appointments online. It works really well. The biggest pain is that when they pay the Department of State, they have to pay by check or money order. And people come in all the time with no form of payment because they think they're just going to pay with a credit card. So that's one of those. We had a site visit from the Department of State this fall when they were in the area doing in-person trainings, and they said, "What's something we can make easier for you?" And I'm like, "You have to modernize." I said, "If they're under 30, they don't own a checkbook." We literally, the only marketing we do is on our website, but then we're also listed on the travel.state.gov, and word of mouth. I know somebody told us a couple weeks ago that like on the Facebook moms groups, we're listed as like the best place to get a passport for kids. Again, we've got toys, we've got the game table, we've got all kinds of stuff to keep them occupied. So yeah, what I would tell people is again, it brings people into your library who haven't been in there, and then they see things, and a lot of times then they're getting a library card before they leave. It's a pretty decent revenue stream, and I will say for us, that is for the city, because it just goes back to that general fund. When we started doing this, the city did allow us to set up a Venmo account to collect our fees, but they did not want the city's accounts connected with Venmo, so they allowed that to go to the Friends of the Library. I'm thinking they may be rethinking that a little bit because our friends definitely get the majority. If they, I mean, we allow them, they can pay cash for their fees, check, Venmo, and they can use a card. But if they use a card, the city adds 3%. And so overwhelmingly, they're choosing to do Venmo. So our
Mhm.
friends are doing really well.
Well, that's great. Another great collaboration there. Very cool. All right, I'm going to pivot to Tabor, where Dawn facilitates her library as a UPS drop-off site. So what does that mean, Dawn?
Well, we are pretty rural here. We're about 1,000 people, and the closest UPS to us was probably about a half hour away, no matter which direction you went. And we did have drop-off boxes like post office boxes or the like our book drops that they could take them to probably within 15 miles of us, but they could only take smaller packages. And so a lot of people couldn't use those. Um, so I just got to researching and I got on UPS's website and I found that they had places called access points. And an access point is a place where you can bring your packages to, and they have to have a barcode on them and already have the labels on them, but you can bring your packages to us and then we will give them to UPS. Unlike a actual UPS store where you can go in and even you can even have just a QR code and they'll print off your label and they'll put it on there and mail it out. We can't do just the QR codes. People can print off their labels here, but we charge them 25 cents to print those off per sheet, and then it has to have a barcode on it. Anyway, so when I researched that and I called them, then they got back a hold of me and they didn't have any other libraries that were doing it. So they didn't even know if they could do it or not with a library. And I was like, I don't know why. You're in every town and the UPS guy comes here almost every single day to the library anyway. And they have FedEx in all of the Dollar Generals, which are getting to be in a lot of the rural towns around here. So after discussing with them a few times and having some meetings with them, then I just had to fill out a questionnaire. Then I had to send them pictures of our library entrances and exits. And we have cameras at all of our entrances and exits of the library. I had to take pictures of the cameras to show what they, that we had security for that. And then when people bring in their packages, I had to take a picture of our circulation desk and also of the storage room, which is just our work room on a counter where we put, or the floor, depending on how busy of a day it is, of our packages, where the packages were going to be stored. And that does not have to have a camera in it as long as there's cameras at your entrance and exit points. So after about a month, then they were excited to work with us, and it has been a really great thing for our community. We have people that come from half hour away, like Shenandoah is a half hour from us, but they don't have it. They just have one of the boxes to put stuff in, so it's not big enough. So they'll drive all the way over here because otherwise you have to drive to Council Bluffs, which is another 30 miles on from there. When people bring in their packages, like I said, they have to have a barcode, so you have to have a scanner. And we just use our regular scanner that we use to scan our books here at the library, and it's on our regular computer. And then we also I have an iPad that we have it on our iPad so that if we're busy at the front desk and somebody brings something in, I hope you probably can't see, it's going to blur it, sorry. Anyway, we can go on our iPad and go on there and put the information in it and scan onto there. And that's all that they really need to drop off. They can leave an email if they want to know when it gets picked up and when it gets delivered or anything like that. But that's all that they need when they bring it in, is just if they want to leave an email. Then we put them in the back room until the UPS, our driver comes, and we get 50 cents a box for the mail coming in. If somebody is not going to be home or has something coming in that they don't want left on their doorstep, or they're going to be gone on vacation or something like that, they can choose to have it delivered to the library. And then when they get back, then they can pick it up from the library. They'll sign for it and pick it up. Also, if somebody isn't home or doesn't answer the door when the UPS drivers are out, sometimes the UPS driver will leave a note on their door telling them that they can pick it up at the library, and then they'll bring it to us with a different label on it saying that it's here. It notifies them. And then a lot of times, like I said, we're a small town, so I know the people and I can message them and let them know they have a package here, just to make sure that they know. And they're always really thankful to know that it's someplace safe and that they don't have to wait another day or two to get it. Let's see.
And again, a perk, I imagine you guys are open into the evening a little bit so they
Yes.
can get home from work and come grab it.
Yeah. And if if they get a hold of me and they have something to pick up or to drop off, we don't open until 10 in the morning, but I'm usually here by 8:30. And so a lot of people know, and they'll call or they'll knock on the door or whatever, and I let them in, and they can drop stuff off or they can pick it up late. If you have something that's going to be next day air, it has to be here by 11. And our driver usually picks up every day at about 11:30 or 12. Just depends on the day. And he picks up Monday through Friday. We don't do Saturday pickups or drop-offs. They can drop off on Saturday, but it won't go out till Monday. It's just really been a great thing. We advertise it on our Facebook page and on our library web page, and UPS, if you go on there and look, it gives a list of where places are that have it, and it has us listed. And then we have little cards. I don't know if you can see. Yeah, there we go. It's just little cards that we can hand out, and it's posted on our front door. They sent us a sign that goes on our front door. Also, if somebody comes in to pick up a package that the UPS has brought in for a customer pickup, then we have to do verifications on that. They have to show us their driver's license, and they has to be the name that's on the package that's picking it up. You can't be like a friend or somebody coming in to pick it up unless it's, like I said, we're rural. I know a lot of people, and so there's a lot of scamming that happens with UPS, so we have to be careful. But if they call me and tell me somebody else is picking it up, I check their ID, and then it has to be signed for. But that's all done just on our regular computers. It didn't cost us anything to start it. I got training of just a little bit online that they showed me how to do the different stuff. And then they sent out an email that had just the papers that tell us the whole routine. So if there's something that we get stuck on, we can go and look on that. We've been doing it for about 2 years now, maybe a little bit long. No, about 2 years. It's not a big money maker. Like I said, it's only 50 cents, but it's revenue, and it's about $400 to $450 a year right now, which is quite a few packages coming in, which is around holidays. A lot of times, especially Christmas and stuff like that, we get really busy. We've had really, really big boxes come in that are, hundreds of pounds that the UPS guy, it was a big, a weight, so it was in a big box and it was so heavy. Or we get just little packages that come in. And we also have to be real careful. The one time we had a package come in that was supposed to be signed for, and I didn't know the person, and it wasn't the address that was on it. And so it actually had a telephone number of the person that sent it. And I got back a hold of the person who sent that. And then they got a hold of their police department because they thought they had been scammed, which it turns out that they were scammed. And there was a check for like $350,000, or no, excuse me, $3,500 in that envelope, which he had me actually take out and tear up and throw away and everything. I told him I'd send it back to him, but that we really don't have too many problems with anything. The worst part is with places like Amazon or whatever, they'll give it to you free if you get the QR code, but then you have to drive an extra 30 miles. But if you want to pay the $6.99 or $5.99, then you can get the barcode so that we can scan it, and then it's free to bring here, but it costs you that 5 or 6. So we're still working on that. That's one of the only complaints that we have about it. It's been pretty easy. We have a really good relationship with our UPS driver. He's great. I have his phone number. So sometimes I'll call him and say, oh, you're going to want to bring in your little truck today because there's quite a few. Or, you know, if he just left and somebody brings in something, then I might call him, especially around the holidays, and tell him, we had another one come in if you're still around town and you want to pick it up. Or sometimes we have a company here in town, our city water, they have to send in their water samples and it has to be 24 hours that it has to be there. So they use our UPS here. And there's some other businesses here in town, little pop-up shops, and they send their clothing and stuff out from here. So they'll bring in like 12 packages at a time and stuff. Or we have a person that they sell meat. And so they bring in big insulated boxes, you know, of meat and stuff. But all in all, it's been very good for both us and the community.
Well, that's very cool. I'm just so excited about each of these services, you know, in smaller, more rural areas that you can still offer your patrons and your city citizens a chance to have services that might not be available in towns like yours. So a huge thank you to Jane and to Jamie and to Dawn for taking time today to do this kernel. And again, another thing that just strikes me is that each of these do bring in a little bit of revenue for your library or for your friends group. And so it really is a win-win all around. So I hope that this sparks something for a viewer, that someone out there is like, oh, I have something similar that I would love to see featured, and send me a note. And this poor Jamie is now, I think, her second kernel in a week, because I had contacted her about this one, and then she said, hey, I'm doing this other thing. So Jamie is the star of the spring kernel series here. But we do always love to feature librarians doing interesting things. So I hope you check out the rest of the kernel series, and I hope that you can get in touch with me if you're doing something cool in your library. So thanks again, presenters, and thanks everyone for watching. We'll see you next time.